Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima, and here I am to talk to you about Hotshot racing. I was really looking forward to this because the trailers made it look fantastic. A bit of a Daytona USA crossed with Virtua Racer style of gameplay and presentation. I'm all in. Those two games are fantastic, but they screwed up a few times along the way. But we'll get into why shortly. This is going to be a classic style video. I've been doing a lot of videos with like post-commentary lately, but I want to do a classic one for this one. I don't think it needs much else. Not much in the way of settings. I mean, there's a fair few things going on here, and I would fully recommend you turn down the dialogue because I find it to be obnoxious for reasons we'll get into. You can rebind all the controls on the keyboard, but none on the gamepad. And I don't know if this is a cause for something that I get really annoyed by, but who knows. And here you've also got some basic graphics selections. A bit weird that you've only got low, medium, and high in the video quality, but this doesn't seem to be a very heavy game anyway, because, I mean, I'm able to get 240 frames on a 240Hz monitor pretty regularly on an 8700K and an RTX 2080, so I'll take it. But yeah, that's all the settings, basically. You've also got the race shop, where you can go and select both a person and their cars, and you can customize them. You unlock customization abilities via money, and you also unlock things via challenges. The challenges are usually pretty simple. There's really not that much to change, though. Like, most of these changes are so minor that I barely notice them as I, like, scroll through all the options, right? It's not something I'd be paying too much attention to, although, except when you get to the inside of the car, where you can change a few things in here, including, like, the little thing you've got hanging off your dashboard, which is it's a nice touch, but the annoying thing about playing in the first-person view is that the cars around you suddenly become a lot more aggressive and try to ram you even harder than they normally do, and it's really fucking annoying. It seems like every time you swap the camera, the game decides to immediately punish you for it. And you've also got different race suits. Again, you unlock these the same way. You just do challenges and win races, more or less. So we got some modes here. I fully admit I haven't tried the online because I never like playing online on kart games. There's always going to be like one sweaty guy ruining the fun of literally everyone else by getting 45 seconds ahead of them without even trying. So I'm never a fan of that. So you've got three main modes. You've got the Grand Prix, the single race, and the time trial. But the single race is the only way you can play cops and robbers and drive or explode. So it's like 5 modes technically, but we'll just play Grand Prix straight off the bat. So much like Mario Kart, you can pick 3 different difficulties. However, these don't actually affect the speed of anything as far as I know. You've got a choice between normal, hard, and expert. We're going to play on hard for reasons I'll get into once we actually start racing because I've been here a bit too long. Everyone's got their own set of 4 cars. They're all set along 4 different types. Drift, speed, acceleration, and a bit of a balance between the 4. 3, I should say. And I'd fully recommend sticking with speed on normal and hard, but when you go up to expert, get something with a little more acceleration because the AI are absolute fucking jerks. Also, as I said before, don't go manual. I probably should have let the course thing go up there, but oh well. I'll do it on the next race. It's no problem. So here we are. Pretty simple racing game controls, if I'm being honest with you. You got the A button to boost, X button for an instant look back. I don't even know what B does. And Y lets you change the camera view. So you can be in here, or you can be on the hood, you can be first person without the hood, you can be medium distance and far distance. I recommend far distance because this AI can be a little bit of a bitch. So you earn boost by drifting, tailgating, and that's pretty much it. That's really the only ways you can earn both of those. And you boost by tapping the A button. You can have up to 4 segments at any one time. But you need a segment to be full before you can actually boost with it. You also lose boost if you collide with people, well, not with people, but with the sides of the road while you're drifting. If you were colliding with people while you were drifting, God, you'd never get any fucking boost. These guys are horrendous, if I'm being honest with you, because I admit that I kind of suck, but most of the time I was still managing to win. Like, normal is really easy. Hard is slightly harder, but not too much harder. And then Expert just becomes an absolute bore, in the sense that the enemy rubber banding gets a bit ridiculous. So let me explain to you why. Even at like maximum speed for these sorts of cars, on normal and hard, you'll be able to fly past them just fine, right? But you also have to keep an eye behind you, because whenever you get too far ahead, everyone else suddenly gets like 1 or 2 segments of boost in their tank, and they're more than capable of keeping up with you, meaning that boost ends up feeling a little bit useless, because the only time you can really use it is right at the end of a race, because that's the only time you can safely use it to get over the finish line. Because if you fall a little bit short of the finish line, someone will boost up and overtake you, and that'll be it, more or less. So most of the racing on those 2 difficulties is just taking those into account, and then just boosting for the hell of it when you're close to the end, and not having that happen. Because the AI is also really fucking aggressive for some reason, and it's more than happy to just throw you straight off the fucking road. It does this all the goddamn time, and I legitimately could not tell you why. Then when you get up to Expert, it gets... I did it again, I'm sorry, I'm so used to skipping them. When you get up to Expert, the AI rubber banding, both in favor of and against... Well, not in favor of and against you, but from behind you and in front of you, becomes so incredibly daunting to deal with that you can only make like one minor mistake. If you make so much as one minor mistake, if you aren't like perfectly working your boost meter, if you aren't doing your drifts perfectly, if you're only just managing to like avoid collisions with the AI cars because for some reason it feels like you're a feather and they're anvils on wheels, you're going to fall behind and you're never going to catch up. Because even in the fastest car in the game, or at the very least, the car that had the speed meter filled all the way up, I wasn't able to catch up to the regular AI cars, even ones I knew that were slower than me, because they have lesser stats, while I was in the fastest car going at the highest speed I could. And it was ridiculous. Not to mention they're more than happy to just zoom up behind you, because the weird thing about slipstreaming in this game is that it gives you a massive speed advantage, almost to the point of being more effective than fucking boosting sometimes, just due to the way the rubber banding works. It's really weird. Not to mention the AI just bumping into you all the time becomes even more aggressive, to the point where it legitimately feels more like a game of Destruction Derby than it does a game of like Daytona. Because as I said, the physics are kind of biased against you, to the point where if they run into you, you'll fly all over the place. If you run into them, it's like they can't move at all. Reminds me of some shitty PlayStation 1 racing games, if I'm being honest with you. There's your challenge examples, by the way, they're all something along those lines. Gonna let this one play out. So yeah, as a result, despite the fact that the driving is somewhat reasonable, I wish it was faster. That seems to be my biggest problem with it, because I don't know why, but it just feels a bit sluggish at the end of the day. The difficulty level doesn't really change that. There is a way that you can drive around faster, and I'll be happy to show those off once we're done with this Grand Prix. But it's just a little less speedy than I would personally like. It's not a big deal in comparison to the AI being aggressive assholes that really rubber band you for no discernible reason, both ways. But it's still relatively enjoyable to drive around in these cars. The problem is, with the tracks being as wide as they are, And the timer up there being as lenient as it is, it becomes almost no challenge when you're driving by yourself to learn the intricacies of the driving. Whether it be the drifting, whether it be maximizing your turbo output, anything along those lines. It's not hard. The majority of the difficulty comes from the AI being dicks and not like your control over the car. Like, think of Daytona USA, for example. You wouldn't have to touch a single driver in that game all day and you could lose without managing to pull off a 40-lap run. Because that game needed a bit of skill behind it. This game doesn't. This game kind of feels like it's more trying to appeal to the Mario Kart people, while also advertising itself as a Daytona USA / Virtua Racing sort of like little crossover thing going on. And the one thing I absolutely do like about this game is the graphical style, because it nails that like old school polygon vibe. Some great, fantastic flat textures, really well done models. The good performance really helps it out. Just general effects of speed that you've got going on, like in the corners there with the anime-style speed lines. All of it is like, it's legitimately gorgeous. And whoever made this needs to get a job on more like this. This is what we mean when we say like retro styling, but it feels like it's actually got heart. It really does look amazing. Although I'm a little bit more disappointed with the sound, because the music tracks just kind of fade into the background, which I admit I'm kind of disappointed by, purely because of the fact that you might know one of the composers for this one if you've been watching this channel for long enough. That is Waterflame of Glorious Morning, aka the Age of War music. He's one of the two composers in this one, but the soundtrack in this one just makes me feel nothing, I gotta say. Like, seriously, look at this slipstreaming. You can't slipstream behind someone forever, and it's no wonder they manage to catch up to you if they're right behind you, because Jesus, you just fly past them. It's kind of ridiculous. But the one thing that annoys me the most about the sound, though, is the call-outs that come from the drivers themselves. They're all different, they've got different nationalities, and therefore they've got different call-outs. However, the two drivers I've picked so far have been an utterly generic rich boy who lives off his mother's credit card, and the Japanese dude down the very bottom of the list, who is basically just a robot that throws out dead memes all the time. Never use memes in your video games. Never use memes in your video games. Do I need to put two pieces of bread around your head and slap them together and call you an idiot sandwich? Don't use memes in your games. They become outdated so fucking fast. And it's not even in-date memes. It's like, I heard with Toshiro, I think his name is, I heard the cake is a lie meme something like 4 times in a row in one Grand Prix. And a Grand Prix lasts like 15 minutes at max. So I gotta tell you, man, it's just not great. I don't know if the other characters are much better, but the one thing that kind of weirds me out about the way that the call-outs work is that they just seem to come in out of nowhere. Like, sometimes you'll hear them when you boost, sometimes you'll hear them when you do an overtake, but you'll just get some random voice lines out of nowhere for no discernible reason, and it doesn't work. Especially when you don't have good characters and really repetitive voice lines that rely on dead memes from over a decade ago. Shit. This really isn't as hard as this looks. I mean, well, it is technically, but it's mainly the fuck. God, I hate it when that happens. Yeah, screw it. You've seen enough already. Getting turned around like that happens to me all the goddamn time, and I don't know why. It just seems like you get a little bit of oversteer going, and then it just, no matter how hard you try to correct it, it just, well, hard or soft, I should say, you try to correct it, it just goes wrong anyway. So next is time trial, and I just want to show you how little of a mastery you kind of require of this game to really understand it. So I played this track right here, Royal Roadway. with a Staff Ghost. You can also press the Y button to do something really neat, which is grab the times of everyone else on the leaderboard, and you can race against them immediately just by selecting them on this leaderboard here. I'll demonstrate on a different course. We already did Casino Run. What about the coast? Give me the Z view and give me it mirrored. So if I hit Y... Oh. Only 2 people have raced the Staff Ghost. Alright, we'll pick the Staff Ghost, and I'll go for a slightly different car this time. Actually, no, I'll go for a different racer altogether. Give me Marcus. What's he got available to him? We'll see what his balanced is like.
Not too much, not too little.
It still looks great. But yeah, you saw in the one track that I raced on that I had beaten the Staff Ghost by 2 seconds, right? I did that my first try. No word of a lie, no joke. I was in the fastest car in the game, and I managed to do it all in first try. I mean, obviously it was probably a really bad idea to pick a relatively slow car. Because of course, like, the faster cars are gonna get it. Also, yeah, I'm playing it mirrored. Because you can do that. There is also one other problem that I'll bring up just while we're driving along and admiring the sights. And that's that manual is utterly broken. As in manual transmission. Because I tried playing with the manual transmission once and only once. Because for some reason that for the life of me I cannot determine, for a relatively long amount of time, just randomly, your shift up and shift down buttons will just refuse to work. So if you're about to go around a turn and you try and shift down, you won't shift down. If you're trying to shift up after you have let off a boost, you won't shift up. And this seems to happen not only at random, but it seems to happen a fucking lot, which makes playing as a manual transmission driver utterly broken. And I legitimately could not tell you why it's that bad. I don't know if it's because there's just some bug in the PC version, because this is what I'm playing if you look at the top right corner, but man, if it's that broken on the Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One releases, oh man, that's not going to be pleasant. So let's go check out the 2 other modes. We've got Cops and Robbers. Might as well play as Victor. Very generic Russian Angry Man. Let's see, we've got Acceleration, we've got Speed, and we've got El Toro. This guy's really good at drifting, like, no matter what you do. We'll play as Ramen. Renan, not Ramen. God. So, this game mode plays a lot like Burnout, but like Zombies Burnout, where you have to slam into people as hard as humanly possible, but it's kind of let down in single player at the very least by the fact that the cops always focus on you. It doesn't seem to matter what everyone else is doing. The cops are either going to be on your ass or very close to being on your ass at all times. And you're going to get knocked all over the fucking place. And guess what? That rubber banding I talked about earlier on, it applies here too, no matter what difficulty you're playing it on. So, yeah. Unless you just want to be like the scapegoat for 5 other AI players that you're never going to get a single bit of appreciation for whatsoever, you're going to have problems with this mode. See, everybody else just ends up taking a lot of damage. Well, not everybody else, but he ended up taking a lot of damage. I don't even know, like, when they got the time to deal that much damage to him, because he was nowhere near me, and they were all over me for a huge amount of time. So when you lose a robber in this mode, they become a cop. And your score just freezes. But of course, if you take down someone, you get their money. This is, of course, a mode that's meant to be played online, so... You know, that's kind of a thing. But yeah, in single player, when the AI cops are just like, okay, it's your turn to die, you're probably gonna die. Like, no matter what you do, you're gonna be like boosting all the way. You're gonna be having the worst time of your life trying to stay in the middle of the road, and they're just gonna catch up to you with their massively powerful boosters, and you will lose. You will lose. Also, considering that, like, I've tried running these people over, but it just seems that, like, you get no damage out of it. The AI just seems to be really good at avoiding you, even on normal, and these cop cars handle like fucking bricks. They are really unpleasant to drive. And somehow I came 7th in all that. I don't know how. And the other mode that you've got is Drive or Explode. And we'll change the map. Mountain. Ski Paradise, why not? Like. Give me the Athena, why not?
Bit of this, little bit of that.
It's a winter wonderland here at Ski Paradise.
It's the same problem I have with Redout. It's the same problem I have with a bunch of other games like this. The driving is alright, the courses are really well done, the game just looks fantastic in general.
Don't get cocky, Mike.
But it doesn't really take much to learn how to drive well. It's mainly just the game fucking you over with the AI that makes it frustrating to play. It always goes for you. It always screws you. It always does something that's not your fault, but it just happens anyway. Whether it be the AI deciding to run you off the road, whether it be the rubber banding working in both ways, in terms of like in front of you or behind you. The game just seems determined to, in any way, shape or form, screw you over. Also, I will point out that I was going to say that originally when I first played, when I heard of these modes and then I realized they were only in the single race mode, that it felt weird that they decided not to, it felt weird that they decided not to include these in like the Grand Prix mode, like make a single player campaign mode where these get dropped in from time to time. It felt weird that they didn't include these. But then after playing them and realizing the AI is worse on the targeting you specifically segment than they are in the main modes, it became pretty damn obvious. I wanted to like it, I really did, but it just, when you make the AI like this, it just makes the games go from interesting to unenjoyable, and considering they haven't put too much effort into making the driving hard to learn, it feels okay. There's nothing wrong with the driving itself, it's just the AI that gets in the way all the time. And there's no, like, there's nothing else to help you, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh yeah, that's also a race too, so you have to come first while also dealing with all that shit. The driving is okay, it looks fantastic, but it's not hard to learn how to get good, and the AI is just more than happy to screw you over at every conceivable opportunity, and that really just takes all the fun out of it, and that's why I can't recommend Hotshot Racing. It's just like Redout, where the AI in that is super aggressive and doesn't get punished for running into you. Meanwhile, if you run into them, you might as well give up the race then and there, because they're a dick about it. The rubber banding is absolutely terrible, and the extra modes just make it even worse. So, yeah. I was looking forward to this, and I'm really, really disappointed. If you want it, it's like $20 US on Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, or PC, like this here. And at least it runs fine on PC as well, although I haven't tried the online, but knowing these games, you'll probably get like 6 months out of it at most, and then that'll be it. There'll be nobody playing online anymore, because there's just nothing here to really grasp onto. This has been Blue Maxima, and I will see you all next time.